are the best shoes for lifting if you're training primarily with free weights? Is it the infamous Chuck? Do you need to get Olympic weightlifting shoes? Are the Nike Metcons or Nobulls worth the hype? Let's find out. I am Annie Miller, certified strength and conditioning specialist, and I help you learn as you train and enjoy your lifts again without having to figure it out for yourself. Today we do that by covering 5 different shoes and where I think they rank for most gym goers looking to train in a semi-functional manner and feel good doing it. First, you need to note that your final answer and favorite shoe will come down to preference. How does a particular shoe feel and fit on your foot? That's what's most important at the end of the day. And that ideally, you're able to find a shoe for your training within your budget. The shoes that I share are certainly not the only shoes on the market to consider for lifting, but I hope they help at least get you closer to finding a good fit. I encourage you to think of training shoes as an investment. You're going to wear these several days per week for months, if not years. Often when we put that into perspective, the value that we see in this piece of training equipment goes up. I honestly prefer to train in socks, and I used to do so when I was a member at my local Gold's gym, but then they came up with a rule that you couldn't train in socks. I think that that's rude. They also started not allowing people to use lifting chalk, like, are you even a Gold's Gym anymore? I too began my quest for the ideal training shoe at that time. The shoes that I am sharing today assume that number 1, your training involves classic barbell and strength training movements, so squat, deadlift, hip thrusts, lunges, overhead presses, bench press, etc. Number 2, that we are not talking about a hybrid or cross-training shoe. This is not a shoe review for the best running plus lifting shoe. I personally separate the two, running shoes for running, training shoes for training, and I don't often mix them. No matter what, these are the qualities that you're going to look for in a shoe for weightlifting. Number 1 is that it has a flat bottom or minimal tread, which you will see in these shoes. When lifting weights or training for strength, this provides a very stable platform for force transfer through the ground. That's why we want that. Number 2 is that they have a wide toe box. Though you might like the look of a slim shoe, your feet were made to spread and grip the floor. Your toes should be able to be mobile, and a wide toe box allows for these things. Number 3 is close to a 0 drop. I am not a stickler for having a full 0 drop, but more so avoiding what I call a marshmallow shoe. More often than not, this is seen with running shoes. They have a lot of cushion, and we don't want a lot of cushion for weightlifting, especially for strength training. So look for that combination of flat and close to 0 drop, which you'll find in the shoes that I share today. Number 4 is flexible body, at least at the ball of the foot. Where I think a lot of training shoes go wrong is how rigid the body of the shoe is. While yes, we want a firm and flat and wide sole, we also need our foot to be able to move when we are doing walking lunges or split squat variations. Even with half kneeling upper body work, we don't want a brick on our foot. So the shoes I am sharing today range from $70 to $200. If you can find a shoe that checks these boxes on Amazon or at Goodwill or some other store for cheaper, then you go. So these are, in my opinion, the best shoes for lifting. These are not in any particular order, so take from each what you wish, make your own decisions from there. We'll be looking at some different categories: toe box, drop, stability, mobility, and durability for every single shoe. And let me know in the comments if you agree with any of these shoes or if you have another shoe to consider. I would love to hear, and it helps other viewers as well. Now, I don't have all of the shoes that I'm going to cover today on me, but I'll share the versions that I do have so that you can get a better visual other than just what's shown on the sites. First up is the Nobull Rec Trainer. This is the canvas trainer, but these come in at $129. Nobulls are hard to beat, especially if you like a more solid feeling shoe. These differ in feel very much so from something like the Vivo Barefoot, which we will cover shortly. As you can see, they have a decent sized platform, but they're pretty close to, if not a 0 drop design, meaning that there is no big rise from toe to heel. So we have a flat and even surface along the entire foot. Next up is the toe box. They have a wide toe box, so check that. In terms of stability, Nobulls feel very, very stable in my opinion. You're definitely not going to feel the ground like you would with a shoe that has less of a sole, but the design does provide a very flat and stable surface to push through. Overall, they just feel really solid. If there was one complaint in this department, it would be that the toe rises up just a bit, so your toes might lose that stability or contact with the floor. Truly, it's a minor inconvenience in my experience. On the flip side, mobility, they're very flexible to an extent. This could be a personal issue, but I have found, even with the canvas ones that you see here, when I do any movement with my toe turned under, like a split squat or a half kneeling position, the toe doesn't give quite as much as I would like it to. And so sometimes my heel will come out of the back here, which is not my favorite from a training standpoint. But again, you're trading that really stable foot for a lack of mobility maybe near that toe box. Now I have a very skinny foot, so that's why I say this issue may be limited to me and not a widespread issue with the overall design. Other shoes that we'll cover are more flexible in my opinion, so note that if that is something that's really important to you. In terms of durability, they're extremely durable and many of the Nobull materials are very easy to clean, which I personally love. They also tend to be rather stylish with a minimalistic design. You may find that I have a bias towards this attribute in my training shoes. Next up is the Vivo Primus Lite. Vivo shoes are not cheap. They'll typically run you around $170 to $200, though I will speak to the durability from experience. I wore these Vivo Primus Lites during our world travels, and they took a serious beating. They held up like champions, and because they are so easy to clean as well, they look like almost good as new, and this is 5 years ago that I was wearing these around the world. That is pretty worth it in my opinion, and they're an extremely minimal shoe, but with very high integrity. So if we look at the toe box, the wide toe box is undoubtedly one of their main selling points, so check for that. In terms of drop, they barely have a sole, so 0 drop, check. In terms of stability, I will say I like something with a bit more substantial sole than what these have, but they obviously meet the criteria. They lack stability in that their sole is rounded on the edges, which in their defense more closely mimics the natural form of the foot, but not the most stable in terms of training. A squared off sole is going to provide more of a platform base like the Nobull. But like I said, a Vivo may allow you to feel more grounded as well because your foot really can grip the floor. That piece will come down to preference. Next up is mobility. So in terms of mobility, this is one of the main reasons that I chose Vivo to travel the world with, because they literally rolled up into my backpack. They're extremely mobile. You'll see pictures like that on their site. They have the highest mobility rating of any of the shoes we will cover today. For durability, as I said, the Primus may be a very minimal design, but they are extremely durable and I respect that. Plus, I appreciate it from a training perspective. These shoes are gonna last you a really long time. Moving on, the next shoe is the Flux Footwear Adapt Trainer, which I do not have with me, but we're still going to review it nonetheless. These will cost you $129 at the time of this video, so right on par with the Nobulls. Again, full transparency, I don't own these, but I debated buying some when I was looking for new trainers. I actually went with another random brand that targeted me on IG. The brand was Tropic Feel, and I love the shoes, but they are more of a hybrid training, running, travel, water, do everything shoe than just a training shoe. Thus, they don't actually make the cut here. Though I will say they're very lightweight, comfortable, work for training, and they're stylish. So check them out if you wish. No surprise, they are also $129. I digress. The drop of the Flux. If Nobull and Vivo Barefoot had a baby, I imagine the Flux trainer would be that baby. You can literally see it in the design. They're not as bulky as the Nobull trainer, but they have more sole and structure than a Vivo Barefoot. They check the 0 drop box for me, and they have a minimal flat tread like the Nobulls and the Vivos. In terms of toe box, like most of the shoes that we covered today, these have a wide toe box and mimic the natural design of the human foot. For stability, I can't speak to how stable these feel because I haven't worn them. They look more flexible than stable, but not unstable, if that makes any sense. They certainly look to have the qualities of a stable platform in the flat 0 drop wide toe box situation. I simply don't know how firm the sole feels because again, I haven't worn them. For the mobility rating, I would not pin these as a hybrid shoe in terms of running and training, but I'd put them on the more mobile side of training specific shoes. For durability, they're machine washable according to their site, made for the gym, office, travel, lounge, etc. I imagine they are pretty durable, as any shoe made for training should be. Here is a review from one of their athletes speaking directly to the durability for reference. As I said, most of the training shoes I look at are more lifestyle in terms of fashion, which holds true with the next shoe style as well. And that is the Strike Movement Haze Trainer. Coming in at $150, I bring you a kind of hybrid shoe, but they check almost every box for training, so I am choosing to include them. And they absolutely make a great training shoe. I may even buy a pair myself. Before World Travels, I again debated getting this shoe, but ended up going with the Vivos. Though it was their Chill Pill trainer at the time that I was looking at, I do think now I would go with their Haze trainer. Feel free to creep all of their styles. For toe box, they have a wide toe box, so check there. Drop, they are 0 drop, not quite. I think they have listed on their site that it is 4mm drop. That is extremely minimal. It checks the box. That's why I checked the 0 drop box. What I'll say is that they would absolutely provide a solid base for lifting, though they do have a bit more of a hybrid sole. They are not a running shoe. For stability, I have no doubt that you'd feel grounded in this shoe. You've still got that flat, wide base to work with. For mobility, due to these technically being a cross trainer, you'll experience a good sense of mobility in this shoe. And for durability, I can't speak to it because I've never put them on, but where some other shoes we've covered have more of a reinforced looking material like leather or more of a rubber feel, these do look to be more of a soft fabric. They're probably wicked comfortable, but I would be skeptical about durability. However, don't quote me because again, I haven't worn them. Last but not least, before honorable mention, and the cheapest shoe that we are going to cover is the Vans Old School sneaker. At $70, yes please. They look cute, they feel solid, they are durable AF. In terms of the toe box, they don't have the widest toe box. This is going to be the biggest downfall when looking at cheaper options that aren't training specific shoes. This is what we see with the common options like Keds, Chucks, and Vans. These are popular for good reason as they are cheaper, they're minimalist, they're 0 drop, they're flexible canvas designs, but they're all likely going to be more of a narrow toe box than an actual training shoe. In terms of drop, they definitely have that 0 drop. They're honestly similar to a Nobull in the shape and sole and height of the design. The sole is a bit more of a platform, but it's solid, it is flat nonetheless. For stability, they're extremely stable. You have to think about the materials used. Vans were traditionally made for skateboarding, so your foot is going to be stable and well protected. But that brings us to mobility. They may lack mobility in comparison to some of the other training shoes. Vans certainly need to be mobile enough for skateboarding, but again, in the context of training, you may find that they are more stable than mobile. In terms of durability, like stability, Vans are extremely durable, no complaints here. If your foot is on the narrower side, they might just make a great training shoe for you. Now for one of the most popular and name brand shoes on the market in training, and one I don't actually suggest to you, we have the honorable mention, the Nike Metcon. There are so many versions of the Nike Metcons now, but they typically retail around $150. I've personally owned and trained in 2 pairs of Metcons over the years. Let's look at the toe box. Even with me having narrow feet, I would not back the claim that these have a wide toe box. Maybe you disagree, let me know down in the comments. Or if there is a particular version that favors a wider toe box, drop that down below. In terms of drop, to my knowledge, they are not a 0 drop and they do not claim to be. This makes sense if you're doing a CrossFit style training with more focus on Olympic lifting. You may not want that 0 drop as the heel lift would be beneficial for your training. Though they certainly have a flat and extremely solid sole, which does take us to stability. These shoes are super stable. I can't fault them for that. Even when you look at the product details on the site, it is clear that they are selling durability, stability, toughness, and security, which I do believe these shoes provide. For mobility, on the flip side, I have never found Metcons, even the Flyknit versions, to be mobile. That's one of my biggest quarrels with them. They simply do not provide flexibility through the toes or the body of the shoe while training. For durability, they are winning at durability, but many of the other shoes we covered today are also extremely durable as well. It's the narrow toe box, the high heel, and the lack of mobility for me that just don't make these the best traditional strength training shoe. Which is fair, since their literal name is is Metcon, though I wanted to review them and explain because they are widely used as a training shoe, and they straight up are not your best option. As I said in the beginning, what feels best for you is what's most important. Look for those characteristics regardless of brand or price, and you'll end up with a solid trainer. Zero drop or minimal drop, a wide toe box, flat sole, flexible body, or toe bed. Godspeed. Don't forget to subscribe if you found this helpful, and again, drop your favorite trainers below.